This is the third time I have recorded this. Today I am going to try something new. Oh god, I sound like an idiot. Okay. So we're going to go back to my roots. We're going to go from a journal page from start to finish, and more talking, less music. Hopefully that works out for everyone better. Certainly makes editing easier, and I won't have to worry about those like notices that I've used music that doesn't belong to me. My solution has been to make my own background music in GarageBand, and despite the fact that I played an instrument as a child, my brain does not work that way. I just can't. I listen to music, I love it, but my brain just is like, I don't know how they got all that layers in there. So I'm going to stick to paint and paper and writing and whatever. This video is going to be on how to make this. And it was a lot of fun, and you're like, wait, that's not a journal page, it's really big. I think part of what would be helpful in videos is instead of seeing me work in my actual journal on a small piece of paper and zoom in and everything, I'm going to do it on bigger pieces of paper for two reasons. The first reason is it's easier for you to see the techniques, and it gives me more room to work, and whoever said that a journal page has to be in an actual journal, I don't think anyone's actually said that it has to be in a journal, and it doesn't. The second reason is that my walls are very lonely, and I do have 1, 2, 3 paintings of my own up, and well, kind of 4. And then I have 2 by my 2 favorite artists. I have a Kurt Halsey triptych, well, I don't know, it's 3. And I have a Sabrina Ward Harrison print. So my walls want more art on them, and so I'm going to make it. And so by doing art this big, I can hang it on my walls and it will look pretty. So that's basically that. I really love how this I have like an infection in my lungs, so during the video I might sound out of breath. I was filming it on Monday before I went to the doctor on Tuesday and got my medicine, so I really actually was having difficulty breathing, which I have been. That's time to take more Delsum and some more antibiotics. Really big journal page, lots of colors, lots of fun, spray inks, stencils, paint, water, paper towels, and this is Kirby. And that's what happens. I'm going to be working for the foreseeable future for videos. I have this big huge pad of paper that one of my brothers bought me a while ago, and I never used it. So that's what we're going to work on. We're going to work big, going to work in layers, and this is a 2-parter, so next week you'll get part 2. I'll probably film it on Monday again and take a whole week to edit it, which it didn't take me a week to edit. It took me an hour and a half to edit. I already finished it. I just, what was it? Oh yeah, I don't like sitting in front of the computer all day anymore. Yay! So I only can edit on my desktop. Whatever. I'm gonna stop talking now. So here you go, part 1 of 2 parts on how to make that really cool page, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week. Hopefully I'll see you next week. If you follow the blog or you subscribe, that would be awesome if you did. And then, yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay, so bye! Okay, here's my piece of paper, and I was going to gesso it, so there's like gesso there and everything, but then I decided to change my mind, so I just gessoed over there. And one of my favorite things to do is just like write all over and then gesso, and sometimes it's really cool what happens when you use Copics and then you gesso over them or paint over them. So I have some Pitt Big Brush, I have a big Sharpie, and I have a lovely tin of Copics. And this is just a color pen. And I like to overlap and change direction of what I'm writing. and just like some doodles. So that's a lot of writing, and it's like all over the place in here, probably, except for there, so we'll see how that works, but it's all over the place. And now I'm going to actually gesso completely over it. You know, different markers react to different media in different ways. So the great thing about gesso in this situation is that when it dries, you'll still be able to see everything. It'll just be kind of muted. Look, it's me. Right here you can see it's actually like pulling the color of the Copics, which is really cool. And then it'll like turn almost fluorescent, which is pretty cool. Okay, so I've gessoed over everything, and it's kind of cool because I kind of see it as these are all these feelings that I'm feeling right now that aren't really negative, and I'm trying to give myself a pep talk. And I've kind of covered them, so we're going to transform them. And what I do at this point, which you might have other people saying don't do this or anything, but see how the paper is starting to kind of curl and stuff? So this is how I cheat. I find like a plastic bag. So I have a plastic bag. Look, it's from Jerry's Artarama. I literally live by one, so. And I'll put it down, like so. And then I'll actually close this, and then, there, I'll put something heavy on top, and I'm going to let that dry for like 10-15 minutes. So here's my gessoed piece of paper, and I just want to zoom in and show you, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a lot of texture because the bag wasn't, you know, completely, that's the wrong thing. The bag wasn't completely flat, you know, so obviously it's going to give you just like this really cool toothy texture on your gesso, which is really, really awesome fun. I'm going to use some stencils with Adirondack ink, and some people like to like lay out the stencils and just spray all over, but I actually like to do them in layers. So I'm actually going to lay them down. This is one of my oldest stencils from Hobby Lobby, and you can see it's kind of ripped apart and it's got like chunky layers of stuff left on it, but I think that still makes it look cool. So I'm going to spray this one. And there's a lot left on the actual stencil itself. So what I usually do is I open my journal to like a random page, and I'll just do this, and do this. And this is kind of how a lot of my spontaneous journal backgrounds get started, is by doing this in my journal. I'm just going to blot, because when you're working over gesso, it kind of acts a little differently and it looks really cool. And of course the journal pages here aren't gessoed, but that gives you a really cool start to a journal page. So I always leave my journal like around me, and oh, now the cover's got stuff on it, but that's cool. So I did that one, and then I have a new one that I got. This is Leaky Shed. It's actually a piece of chipboard, and I thought that would be cool like there. And another kind of spray ink I have is Radiant Rain, which is really gorgeous. Now the thing that'll happen is I love the Adirondack inks because they don't have a binder in them. That means that when I apply water to them, they're gonna like squish out. And there's a video of mine going over how to create watercolor-like backgrounds with the Adirondack ink and stencils if you want to go and learn a little bit more about that. Now the Radiant Rain has a binder in it, so it's not going to move. And the colors are just amazing. I mean, look at how bright and vivid that is. It's just, they're just gorgeous. And that kind of ran together, which is okay. haven't used it over gesso yet, so I'm not entirely sure how it'll behave if I add water to it. So I just thought that would look cool. And then I have like a bunch of other ones. For example, I have these really cute clouds. This is one of Julie Beltzer's stencils from Crafters Workshop. And of course I did that in my journal again, so that's going to be a really cool background for a journal page. But since I do it this way, you actually like see the shape of the stencil, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm going to do one more. I think I'm actually going to do it over this pink. And since like I said, I use the Radiant Rain, this stencil, it's going to stay, whereas the other ones are kind of not as static. Let's hope my green actually sprays. Yay! The nozzles on these things get notoriously clogged. And of course I'm brayering it on my lap because I don't have any desk space open. And just to show you, it didn't do a lot, but that'll look really cool. And it looks like it turned to mud. Ah, look at how the Radiant Rain reacts over the gesso. That looks really cool. So I'm going to show you my favorite part right here. Look at how cool that is. This is the other color of Radiant Rain I have, which is beautiful. And I'll use this. This is a doily from the dollar store. And yes, it's sparkly. It's sparkly like Glimmer Mist is a sparkly thing. And I'm not going to get anything off of that because it absorbs all the ink. That's really interesting how the colors... So see, that's kind of like how I get started with this. And then I'll do what I call opening up the inks. And I'm just simply dipping my brush in water and just going over it. And it looks like over gesso, you kind of lose the stencil. So I'm only going to do a little bit. And see, it kind of doesn't matter at this point that you could see the outline of the stencil, because once I start opening everything up, this actually takes some experimentation to learn how the colors are going to mix. You have to understand that, you know, I have the blue and I have orange on here, and you need to know how they're going to come together because you don't want a terribly muddy mess. So just kind of experiment. And that Radiant Rain isn't going to move very much. But it does mix to make a gorgeous color. So here's another thing to do on here. So I kind of use this just to lay down and get color on the page. And then one of my favorite things is to do this. And I'm just getting my paper towel wet. And I've learned that you can't do this unless you gesso. I always wondered what I was doing wrong, and it was because I didn't have any gesso on my page. just blotting it like that. And you can do it with any stencil. So I have the holes. This is Raindrops. It's from the same set as the Clouds from Crafter's Workshop. Gonna need a new paper towel soon. I have this one too, which is gorgeous. One of my favorite stencils. I've never done this technique with a stencil like that. So that looks kind of cool. There's tons of color and texture on this page, and what I'm going to do next, so I have bubble wrap and my brayer. I need to get the paint. Oh, that's carpeting. Where is it? So I'm going to brayer the paint on here, and then I have spray bottle. I'm just going to spritz it and then put it down. It wrapped around there. And I still actually have some paint, so I'm gonna just do that on it. So this is basically the background for my journal page, and it actually looks really cool the way it is. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we will move on to the next video to see how I create a journal page over this.